A great God doesn't need our devotion. He doesn't need to be praised. But when we do this, we connect. We have a connection with the divine. It's good for us. And if it's honest and sincere, we will never, ever be rejected by God just because we have different religions or different ways of prayer or devotional activities. I always say that because sometimes people feel that they've been doing something for years and now find out that actually was not very good to do, not very useful to do. But again, the purity and honesty of the heart is what counts when we connect with God.
Welcome to today's episode, where we explore the intricate dance between spirit and reason, bridging the everyday with the extraordinary. We are thrilled to host Dr. Anneli Driesen, a seasoned metaphysician, life coach, and mentor whose life's work illuminates the path to integrating spiritual deepening with professional success. Today, Dr. Anneli will share her insights on how metaphysical principles can enrich our personal growth and provide real guidance through the life's myriad transitions. Whether navigating a midlife change, seeking a deeper purpose, or simply being curious about metaphysical realms, this conversation offers valuable perspectives. So let's delve into the profound with Dr. Anneli Driesen and discover how to weave the spiritual into the fabric of our daily lives. Hello, good day, Anneli. I'm so happy to have you in my online studio.
Thank you. I have been looking forward to our meeting.
Anneli, over three decades dedicated to bridging the gap between physical and spiritual worlds. What initially drew you into this field of connecting these two realms?
I've been asking myself that question. It wasn't really one thing, it was a number of experiences that I had in my life. In some ways, I had a dysfunctional family. In other ways, it was very well. It worked very well. I traveled extensively. I was exposed to a lot of pain when I was younger of other people. I was always asking myself what happiness is about. So there were a number of experiences and incidences. When looking back, they all were a part of leading me to where I'm today. I also grew up very Catholic, which was a very important and wonderful early experience in my life. And when I traveled, I was exposed to a lot of different types of religions and belief systems. And I was very curious and I was very interested and enchanted to find out different ways of explaining God. And so that is another area that I investigated and studied comparative religion. And as I said, I always was interested in happiness and in fairness, in justice. And so a combination of all these things really led me to it. And then I have had different experience with channels, with mediums, some very disturbing ones.
From what ages?
Really early, because I think probably the first one I heard about it, I was what, 12. There was a woman in our area. I grew up in Aachen, which is a city in, you probably know where it is, near Cologne, the area of Germany, Belgium, and Holland. That is an old imperial city. I heard about a woman who talked about the future, and I was very curious. Over the years, I investigated and interviewed probably 150 different types of channels or mediums or psychics or seers or whatever you want to call. They're all very different. Everyone has a different connection, different style of communicating, and different qualities. So that is another thing that I was very interested in. But if it's okay, I want to tell you, go back on early experiences about me being interested in truth, because that is very much still the bottom line of why the academy emerged the way it is, because it is about finding truth, asking questions, and revisiting some of our beliefs or doctrines we may still hold on to that may or may not serve us. So that's the idea, or some of the ideas of the academy. But I had a memory also not too long ago about when I was growing up in a little town north of Aachen, a little coal mining town, very Catholic, went to church regularly, everything is good. But I've heard that there was a house at the end of the edge of town where Satan lived. Satan lived, and I know that when we walked by there, we had to go across the road because you couldn't just direct go past it. But I was very curious what this Satan looked like and where he lived. And it was actually not the Catholic, it was the, what is the church called now? The Evangelische Kirche. What do you say? Okay, I forgot now the name.
Evangelic Church, yes?
Yeah, an evangelic. So it was something that was, there was a devil. And I remember I walked by once, and when no one was looking, I went across the street and went into the door of it, because in those days the churches were always open, right? So I opened the door. It was a massive, big door with a metal bolt thing up front, and I opened it up, and there was this big, great velvet curtain, and my heart was pounding. I was just thought I'm just going to be dead. And so I crawled through there, opened the curtain, went into this room where Satan was supposed to live. And I looked in there, and there was no Satan. In fact, it looked very much like my church, except there were less flowers, less decoration. It smelled even like my church. And there were the benches and the confession booths, and I just thought, oh my God, what is this? And I didn't stay long, but I rushed out because I thought I'm just going to get killed or die or something, going straight to hell. And of course I didn't. And I remember that, or I believe that was an experience where I started to ask questions and opened my eyes and heart to different types of belief systems. And I was young. I was probably 7 years old, maybe 6. And so that is also another story to tell you that I started early to ask questions and look for answers. And oftentimes in school later on, it was only myself and the priest. We had always 1 hour of religious studies per week, or 2 hours even. It was usually only the two of us having conversations. Everyone else was asleep. So this drive to find out answers really led me to work with people now who are ready to ask deeper questions. Why are we here? What's my role? Why am I going through all this pain? Why do children experience early death, cancer, and die? Why are there people who are poor? Why they are rich? What is being in love all about? What is this sexual business about? I remember as a child when I heard finally what these adults do, having sex, I thought, how weird is that? So there was so many questions I didn't understand. And so I investigated about relationships, marriages, businesses, communities, cultures. And I was so fortunate that I traveled extensively already early in life. And so I'm just not unlike you. I didn't live in that many countries as you did, but I certainly was visiting, and I usually visited with my dad, and he was a people person. So we went with the normal folks. Even though we often didn't speak their language, we connected with them. And then I was very curious about their values, about their lifestyle, the roles of women in certain cultures. And all this helped me a great deal to be where I'm today. And then there are many more stories. My work as a manager in an educational company, and was very successful with that. And then my involvement with sales and marketing executives international in the United States. And my former partner was on the board and president. And so as a first lady, I traveled a lot with him and met other very high level successful businesses. In the meantime, I have studied clinical counseling. I became a master certified coach. I've done a few academic things, and which is all just added up. And there will not be time to tell you all of this. But looking back, I had a tremendously rich and versatile life. And all that prepared me to study metaphysics. And you asked earlier about how to do amalgamate, I think, or put together metaphysical and spiritual. We know now in physics that there is really no difference. It's just a matter of not knowing yet. Quantum physics talks about entanglement. In metaphysics, we talk for centuries and thousands of years that we're all interconnected, that there are all these wonderful discoveries that substantiate metaphysical and mystical knowledge that we had for thousands of years. And to put it into practical terms, today with our businesses that you encourage when you talk about reinventing and expanding and learning new things, that is something that is very much parallel to our spiritual growth. We're also starting to question, to realign, to look at our values, to redefine our relationship with the divine. Some people call it God, all that is, spiritual intelligence, universal intelligence, or simply love. Uh, and I always encourage people who are in the academy to use in their own mind the language that works for them. I simplify it. I do refer to God and say, you fill in what feels right for you. Because one of the things we all have in common in the academy is that we believe in a higher good, in a higher energy, in a higher something that is organizing the world in a way that we are learning about.
And I believe that for many people, exploring this or starting metaphysical journey actually influence their sense of purpose. And speaking about personal journey and challenge, let's focus again on your path. What has been one of the most challenging aspects of integrating your spiritual beliefs into your professional and personal life, and how have you navigated this? Through your travel, relocation, and later changes in life. And I know even recently you've had some issues, so I believe it's about it.
Yeah, that's a good question. And also, I would have quite a few answers. Most likely, it's my faith that got me through difficult things. And when I say faith, what I really mean by that is my understanding and today knowing that the universe has a very precise and beautiful order. This order is not something we have here on this planet, but I have faith that everything is going in its right path and evolution, and everything that is happening is monitored, is guided by a supreme universal order and structure that is leaning and has an impulse for the good, for harmony. And you can call it God or your faith, but knowing that these principles operate and they're very much related to the principles of nature has given me the acceptance when there were great difficulties and challenges. And I had many of them. I shared with you before we got online that I have been very ill for 6 weeks. And that again prompted a redirection in my work. And I have decided to step back for a year from all my obligations, only keep a few, and focus on what I call my Anneli project. And I haven't shared it yet with my close connections in Ireland and England, but I show you. I will not go through the details. But I sat down a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago actually, and I wrote down my Anneli project. And what I included this time was things that give me pleasure, things that give me personal fulfillment, things that nourish me, that inspire me, that help me understand more about myself and life. And just rather than thinking, how is that going to turn into money? How is that going to be part of my professional person? And so I added all this, and I still wrote down my goals and my activities for the academy and my personal practice. As you may or may not know, I have been in private practice for over 40 years. So I love to work with people individually. I like to help them in whatever way they present to me. And it doesn't have to be metaphysical or spiritual. Could be a relationship issue or a confidence issue, whatever it is. And or excessive grief. I worked with someone recently who had a very hard time through a loss, lots of anger, lots of pain, lots of very complex grief response. And so I enjoyed doing that and it was very successful. I also have been doing fine material work with aura work, aura surgery, implant removal. These are things that are very foreign to most people. But as we have a coarse body and we have a fine material body, which is our soul body. And sometimes we have soul injuries and soul bruises. And so these are the kind of things I have been also working with in my private practice. And we can do those things online, which is a wonderful thing to know about. So people don't have to come to my physical home and work. We can work online. These kind of activities are very fulfilling to me and they have great results. Anyway, that is so much to tell. I probably could meet a lot of times, but spirituality and business is something that I find more and more people are paying attention to. If you want to help, like in your situation, people who relocate and find more fulfillment in their lives and enjoy their lives at a later time, after 50 or 60 plus, there is a lot of soul in that. There is something that is okay about now celebrating and enjoying life and giving to the world what you have learned, giving back to the world the kind of lessons that made you who you were. And this is what older people have. They have a kind of wisdom and joy of life, many times, not always, that they can share and give to their children and grandchildren. And I just think this is spiritual and this is what gives what we do in older age that special satisfaction that gives us so much more meaning and value in our life.
And I believe you were immigrant even before. Tell a little bit about yourself.
Sure, I grew up in Germany, which you may pick up on my accent still that I still have. And when I was 28 I married a Canadian man, and so that's how I came over to Canada. And I never regretted it. It has been a very rich life. I know now that it was guided, that I had to be here for my task, which is really overall to develop and establish the International Metaphysical Academy in English language. And so I know that now, and I feel very privileged and very much in awe, really, that that was my journey and it still is my journey. But to let you know a little bit more about myself when I was younger, I was really a little nosy kid, according to my mother. She would call it nosy. I would probably call it curious. And I was always asking why questions and how questions. And I remember that it absolutely drove her insane. I was really an annoyance for her, but my father loved it and he supported me always. And so I asked a lot of questions. And I recalled yesterday, actually, that when I was in kindergarten, I already had a very strong sense of justice and truth. And I had a memory that I even forgot to tell my husband. It just came yesterday. There was an incident where I was accused of something in kindergarten. And I said, no, it wasn't me. I didn't do it. He said, yes, you did. And so I had to stand in the corner. Remember when we were little, we had to be ashamed and stand in the corner. I was crying and I said, no, I didn't do it. It wasn't me and or whatever. And I remember that after a while, she said, okay, now you can sit down again. And I was so upset. I stood standing for over 2 hours until we were picked up because I resisted that she just called me a liar. And I just not sit that back down in the chair because I just stood there strong and said, no, I didn't do it and I will not sit down. And I thought, I never even thought about that again, but I was already early on a seeker and fighter for truth. And today I realized as I have been co-authoring this book that is soon coming out called The Book of Hard Knocks. You may be aware of it, that the one that a very large international group originating from Ireland is going to put together. I put together, or we were encouraged to just summarize maybe in a few sentences or words, the kind of system that is really true for our core. And I came up with the one for me that really still things through, which is TLC. Now we usually call it tender loving care, which is really summarizes an approach that I like to have in my work. I don't personally go for hard confrontation. I don't like to put people down. I don't like to put word language. I don't put them really push them out of their comfort zone. It's a certain style that works for many people, and they do, but it's not mine. I like to work with kindness and gentleness. That's my preference and my way of doing work. The T stands for truth. And I mention it to you because you asked me about the relationship between metaphysics and business. As an entrepreneur and as a spiritual person, we need to be dedicated to always find truth within ourselves, truth with what's happening in the world, and that requires some real investment and investigation, asking questions, checking, testing, and be really committed to being our most true and authentic self in every way we are and how we do business. And so that would be just very succinctly summarize what I mean by truth. And I will tell you a little story about that also when I was a child, which I realized later was really an experience that was also repeated throughout my life. But I will get back to that if that's okay with you. Sure. So the second one is L, stands for love. And love is often, as you well know, a misused word and reduced to a certain type of comfort or lovey-dovey. Or when it came to this part of the world, everyone loved everything. They loved the dishes. They loved this and that, particular continent in North America. People use the word love very frequently for everything. Where I come from, the word love is more sacred. It's very rare that you tell your spouse or your lover, ich liebe dich, I love you. It's something that is held more for very special occasions, right? It's not just very frivolously, and maybe it's not frivolous, but it's very commonly used. And then the C from the TLC for me is what I came up with, which is Carpe Vita. We all know the word Carpe Diem, which is use, or diem, use the day. Carpe Vita means live life fully for me. And that in itself could be the content of, could be and will be the content of several books. What does that mean? What does it mean, live fully? Implies so many things about life. And that is also part of what I focus on myself and my clients and the students of the academy. So these are, in summary, three of the main principles that I use in my life and my work.
In your experience, in many cases, as you mentioned, major life transitions or challenges, such as loneliness or dealing with loss in life, serve as a catalyst for individuals to seek out their true purpose in place in the world. So how you dealing, and I know there is no universal advices in this regards, but what you can tell about it? It's a starting point for people to look for the purpose, or it's next step in our growth.
When something terrible happens, we can throw in the towel and hurt ourselves. In extreme cases, people kill themselves or they get into drugs or despair or anger or whatever. And for some people, it's time to review and see what they want in life, whether they just want to survive or whether they want to do something really special, take better care of themselves. As you said, it is really individual. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, tragic events are often wake-up calls for people to make choices. And it's wonderful if I witness or participate or support someone to go through this process and they come back and really come back great and renewed and have a sense of rebirth or purpose or something. Again, it's very unique, very different for everyone. And sometimes I have people who say, or said to me in my practice, they said, I don't know what my purpose is. And I would, in the past, I would go, what would you like to do? I don't know what I want to do. And it was like, wouldn't go anywhere. And then I would say, just make something up and pretend you like it. Boy, what that's all about. Just even it's fishing or making jewelry or I don't know what, just make it up. Sure. And then go for it because oftentimes in the process we figure out what's important to us. And obviously fishing and making jewelry or going to baking classes, painting classes may not be it. But it may be something that has to do with relationships that need to be resolved. Maybe there is someone in one's life who you still are in discord with. Maybe there is someone no longer in your life who maybe passed away, but you need to forgive. Maybe you carry something with you that really burdens you still. Maybe it's guilt. Maybe it's anger. Maybe it is self loathing. Maybe it's despair. It could be so many things. Right. And so we just ask questions. And then I would ask, what would you like to do? How would your life be different if this and that would no longer harm you or hurt you or be there? No, Emily, doing counseling work and counseling, coaching, consulting, whatever you want to call it, is so highly individual. And it is also so important that who you're working with, or in that case, who I am working with, there is a connection, there is a resonance, there is a trust. There is something that is, some people would say, vibrationally in sync. And that is a good thing and a bad thing. A good thing is that there is always someone who can be there for you. The bad thing is you're not always it. I may not be the right person, and I am not the right person for everyone, right? But it needs to be also a willingness to be guided, a willingness to be truthful. It's usually when the pain is big enough, people are opening up, or when the loss is big enough, when the despair is huge. And I worked with someone the other day and she was just amazed. And I think for a therapist or a coach, the more knowledge and experience they have, the better and more loving they are, the better they can be with someone. And I want to emphasize the knowledge too, because knowledge about about human nature, also knowledge about our spiritual nature, because that gives such an added dimension of listening and understanding. And also then, if the right time has come, is to guide people into the direction that serves them the best. I just love what I do. And it gives me so much, how should I say, the word pleasure is not even enough. Deep contentment probably would be a better word. And as I said earlier, I feel very privileged to serve that way.
Can you share some transformative experience or some case that, without the names, from your work where metaphysical principles or principles of your academy help someone find clarity or direction in their life?
It's, of course, a very complex question. But for example, what comes to mind is a better understanding of the issue of karma. Usually people refer to karma as a joke. So, oh, it must be my karma, therefore it's this and this. Now, karma is a very complex system of cause and effect, but it is complex. It is not that simple. There are different types of karma. There is different timing around karma. And there is also a connection, and I summarize now, it's a lot more to it than what I'm sharing with you now. But part of karma is also the issue of predetermination and fate and free will. And as I just mentioned earlier, timing. It is more comprehensive than tit for tat. And understanding that there may be a karmic issue in a relationship that goes sour or has gone sour may be an opportunity for someone to approach the resolve differently. For example, rather than staying in a place of revenge and anger, there may be a place to let go and forgive with love, to separate from someone with love and gratitude. And I know, for example, that I had in the past couples here in my private practice that I worked with who decided to go their own way. And the completion was done with so much respect and love that all three of us were crying at the end. So there are different ways of handling conflict that have a spiritual dimension. And this is not fake. This is not, emotional hype or something. It's a very deep acknowledgement of our different journeys and places and respect for each other. And that would be just one example where the exploration of karmic possibilities or destiny or fate can be explored in a different way. And there are many other things. Another example I could give you is that I have the privilege of learned a lot from the spiritual world about what happened actually during our dying process and shortly after. And so when people are more aware of these kind of things, including important decisions like organ donation or so, they have more information to make better choices. And also, when they lose someone, how they can help someone transition when their body is already dead, how they can help transition their soul body into the next level and let them go. So there are very practical metaphysical principles that we learn about in the academy that are, really life changing and life improvement significantly. And so this is just another example. And there is a lot more. There are very delicate issues that we only address at a later time when we understand more about karmic principles that have to do with abortion issues, that have to do with the death penalty, with children's early death. These are life experiences we all go through. But with more knowledge, we can move through those things much, much better and don't have to carry on negative anger stuff for years and years or destroy our lives with it. It's absolutely life saving. And there's something else, Emily, because I do not believe, but I know that this is not our only life and that life goes on in eternity. When we live purposefully and do our lessons, learn our lessons, do what we have to do, complete our tasks, and people refer to it as contract, as you have more. We may not have to come back, and then we can continue our journey into the spiritual world, but we also need to continue grow and learn and advance. So this is not a deal where you die, you just sit there and wait until you go there even to hell or to heaven. It's an ongoing process of life. And depending on where we are in our own purification and consciousness, we go to different dimensions. Ultimately, our home is with the divine, with God again, and that's where we become one again, where we unite. But during this process, there may be still a few steps to go after our physical death, and how to do that very effectively and very successfully is also something we learn in the academy. Now, I personally don't know any bigger investment or any better long-term investment anyway than investing into ourselves, into our soul.
I absolutely agree with you. And I know that you are go-to person for many who are, in the verge of big changes or loss or and my next question going back to you, my dear.
Yeah, go ahead because I can just, I'm so excited.
Yes, I believe that you, during your lifespan, went on change and reinvention several times. Not going to the details, but what has been your guiding principle through these changes, and how do you manage the uncertainties that come with reinvention?
Sometimes I think it's totally nuts what I'm doing.
No, but it's you. You know yourself.
Yeah, I said earlier, it maybe sounds too simple, but it is really faith. I had, as I've mentioned earlier, I was very ill recently, and I also have gone through periods of time of total ridicule from others, abandonment from family members. Oh, yeah, that has resolved, thank goodness, but we just cannot talk about politics and religion. That these are subjects that we cannot address. But there has been a lot of misrepresentation even from my own colleagues. As I said, ridicule, defamation. That was very hard. And in some cases, I was in relationships where I was suddenly ousted or ghosted. And that happened in one case recently where I felt I had a very strong connection to someone who is in a similar industry than mine and who has been ghosting, shunning me. And I've asked many times and I don't know why. I wish I would know. I have no idea. Sometimes people may have gossiped or so. I don't know. The way how I deal with that is, again, I just have trust and faith that everything has its right order and it works itself out. And I cannot really tell you any much more. I do have a great gift, which is having a wonderful husband. We can talk. And many couples can't do that, talk about very sensitive things. And spiritually, we are in alignment. Intellectually, we are in alignment. And that is such a great gift. And as I'm there for my clients, we are there for each other to talk through whatever blockages we may have, or hurts, or disappointments, or questions. And that is really a great gift that I'm very grateful for. And yeah, that is another way how I get through difficulties is from his encouragement and his love. And that is very healing.
With your experience as a teacher, coach at your International Metaphysical Academy, what do you think set apart a genuinely impactful teaching method as you continue to offer in the realm of spiritual and personal development? And my question, a little bit just to elaborate, there are so many coaches these days speaking, using the same words, nice, kind of good, correct words, but how to set up apart your academy and your vision from others?
Yes, thank you for that question. When you look at similar type of organizations or institutes or academies, many times they focus on practices. They teach you how to use sound, sound healing, how to use the tarot cards, how to use colors. Or, meditation is very good, very strong. The curriculum from the academy is primarily cognitive, which means you learn content, you learn to think, you learn to study. That is probably the main difference. Only later, it's a 5-year program, and it's very intense. 5 years, yeah. So we meet once a month on average for 5 hours. They're very fast-paced hours. Usually meet on Saturdays from 10 to 3 my time here, Pacific Standard Time. There are frequent breaks, short breaks, very focused, a lot of fun. So they get ahead of time study material sent, usually about 15 documents. They are 1 to 3 pages. To study ahead of time, make notes, ask questions. And then when we get together, we discuss those various things. Questions are answered, experiences are shared, and so it's primarily cognitive information and knowledge. Only later we start to do more practical application. So this is a reversed approach from many other similar type of organizations who have the word metaphysical academy or metaphysical institute or whatever, or metaphysical university. And as I get mostly other organizations stick with in my mind, very introductory kind of cognitive concepts on issues like reincarnation or karma or all these different kind of subjects. And I think that is a key difference that we have. And so we have been attracting people generally who ask questions or like to think, or have been in their own religious organizations for long and said, it just doesn't cut it for me anymore. There's a lot of repetition, but I still want more answers. And so they tend to be attracted to the academy. And we have, I must say, just a tremendous group of people there. Very accomplished people. I have been able to attract entrepreneurs, business people in the last few years, and good thinkers, critical thinkers. And if I propose a piece of content or knowledge that is not aligning with what they knew before, but they have a difficult time embracing, I always say, don't throw it out, just put it on the shelf and revisit it later. Because here is a key principle about truth. With truth, all the principles fit. And at some point in time, you have enough range of understanding and knowledge that you can accept certain concepts that may have been too difficult for you to embrace. And that is certainly true for people who are very strongly connected to their own religion.
And let's just to clarify. So in your academy, people coming from the different religious denomination, and there's no kind of any preferences. So please tell about this.
No, and that is very interesting, but also very challenging. Some people have been in the academy who adhere very strongly to their religion, and all they were doing was saying, having a check like, oh, yeah, that believe, we believe this, we believe that, the rest is out. That's not really having an open mind. It's like having a checklist. But those people who have their religion and are really open to learn about other religions and be open to question maybe some things may be man-made, not coming from their spiritual leader, maybe not come from Jesus or from Mohammed or from someone else or from Buddha. Maybe they have been slightly altered over the centuries. And there's a lot of documentation on that sometimes even the Catholic and Christian church over the centuries has changed a lot of the language and a lot of the stories. So the Bible has been changing a lot. I give you an example. There's a very famous book that was published probably 10, maybe 15 years ago called The Four Gospels. That was a result of about 100 scholars investigating the development of the scriptures of the Bible. And it was very interesting. I got this book and I read it through, and it's a very interesting account. It took 10 years to put this book together, and it was from Christian scholars, so it wasn't like people that attack the Bible, right? And when I was preparing a presentation, I realized I needed an English-speaking Bible, and I was told to get the King's Version, which was the best. So I went to a used bookstore. To my big surprise, there was that book I was looking for, but there also was a Bible for children. There was the Mormon Bible. There was even a Bible for the busy executive, and there was Bible for dummies.
I've seen this. I was surprised about such a titles.
And then my husband Googled, and I think there is currently in existence, I may be not quite correct, but I think 136 different types of Bibles, different types of Bible. And then the Mormon Bible is just all this different stuff. And I didn't know. That was very interesting. And then I have a very dear friend of mine who is a professor in comparative religions in Hanover in Germany, and an expert also in Islamic studies. And he is an absolute master in comparative religion. We are friends for over 50 years. He's my longest term friend, actually. And so we have some very interesting discussions and comparisons. But here is something, Emily, that I would like to share, which is very essential. I use the word God now, even though we know we have different definitions for it. But what I know now is that what counts for God is our sincerity, our pure heart, our honesty. It is not important if we repeat prepared prayers or make up our own. It's not important if we go to church every Sunday, because we do that for ourselves. A great God doesn't need our devotion. He doesn't need to be praised. But when we do this, we connect. We have a connection with the divine. It's good for us. And if it's honest and sincere, we will never, ever be rejected by God just because we have different religions or different ways of prayer or devotional activities. I always say that because sometimes people feel that they've been doing something for years and now find out that actually was not very good to do, not very useful to do. But again, the purity and honesty of the heart is what counts when we connect with God or the divine.
Because it's a different energy. Yes, it's a different wavelengths.
Yeah, that's it. Connect to. And as humans, we personalize. It is how we are made up. We need to have a reference point as a God, whether it's father, mother, God, or it, or an animal figure, or whatever it is. That's how we operate because we are in a way very primitive in the way how we function. To just talk to an energy is just too abstract. For me, for example, I still use the father figure for God because it works for me. And it may be spiritually on a Neanderthal level, I don't know, but it works for me.
But whatever, I think what is important, how I understand it's the feelings you have when you have this association, like with the name. Doesn't matter the name, it's the connection. Yes?
Exactly. That is my point, and the honesty with it, and the faith with it. That's I think that's really the most important thing. The other aspect of having gone through difficulties is, and coming out the other end, throughout my life, is it's a form of self-confidence that I have and knowing myself and getting through difficult times. And I know I have, for myself, I have the knowing inside me that everything is okay. God, I don't know how else to explain that. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. And we will go now, I believe, through the different, more practical questions because I understand it's hard to speak about big things like in general. What I was thinking listening to your role of metaphysics for midlife and beyond. And you mentioned already something. For listeners in their midlife and 50 plus, I know there's different definition about midlife, but say 50 plus, who might be exploring or questioning the purpose because of rapid changes around, because of they lost work or they look at this world they used to be part of and don't recognize it, or countries they don't recognize, or different circumstances. How can metaphysical principles specifically aid in the journey of self-discovery and reinvention?
I feel I have addressed that already. When we understand that we are more than our physical body, that we have another reason for being here, and then come to the place in our life where we have had a lot of experience. Kids are grown up, they have their own life, maybe you have already grandchildren. Then it's time for you to focus on yourself, to focus on what is valuable for you, or in my case, what's really exciting for me to get up in the morning for and enjoy the day. What makes my life richer, better? And it's paying attention to the small things in life as well. I'm aware now that I'm cherishing more the moment that I'm in than worrying about tomorrow, seeing more the significance of small pieces of beauty, of harmony in my world. When people are in that age group where they look back in their life and say, so now what? It's often the time when they ask questions about purpose and meaning, where they look at what was my life all about? What were the pieces all about? Oftentimes they recognize that who they are today everything had to be in their life to be who they are. The accumulation of learning, of experiences, of losses, of joys, of illnesses, all of that was part of the wisdom they have acquired now. And that gives them the fuel to often reinvent themselves into a new kind of service or a new kind of enterprise that is still lucrative financially, but also shares with the world something that they can use. And just like in your case, and metaphysical principles is everything about life that we encounter. And that is a deeper understanding about why we're here and why we go through pain and how we come out of this being stronger, better, uh, more confident, more satisfied. Uh, there are so many things that are directly aligned to spiritual counseling or coaching and or consulting, and how to be better, feel better, have more contentment, more joy in life, more happiness. And it can be in so many different ways. Sometimes it is extensive volunteer work. It is not a business. Sometimes it is inventing into a new kind of art or something that they didn't do like forever and now finally want to do and become better at.
No, you mentioned several times my case, and telling the truth, I don't know what you mean. Can only tell that whatever I do now lately with this, it's not a business. It's not a business for me. It's really search for stories of others. and it's not how I see it. My project, it's maybe project of combining different people who can teach and share their wisdom with us.
Yeah, but that is a beautiful purpose. It's a beautiful thing to do. And maybe it's not a business where you rake in a lot of money, but it is a very satisfying thing that you give to the world by inviting people that you think have something to share and inspire others. You mentioned that earlier, to give maybe some idea, some hope, some way of thought. And that is what you're doing. And that is a beautiful contribution.
I would never think in these terms, but okay, about in such a deep metaphysical terminology.
But it is. It's a loving thing to do. And I know you get maybe some other value out of it, some other perks.
And I'm not interested now because I feel really, I feel good when I'm speaking with you. I felt like excited when I was speaking with like Susan and other people. And I thought, okay, I did something valuable today. And hopefully, some people will find value, advice, idea for themselves. And I believe maybe it's too personal question. In your academy, you have people mostly after 50. Is it correct?
Mostly, yeah. I have one younger person there in the academy. He is just, I think he just turned 40.
Okay, it's a bloomer, as they say.
I would like to have younger. In reality, it's a lot of people are still into their careers and families. And so it is a big commitment time wise. But then other people go to church every Sunday. That also takes away half of the day.
Absolutely. And change for many people, and even in our, I would say, age range, comes with degree of uncertainty and sometimes fear of unknown. How do you approach, or what would be your advice on life's unpredictable nature and how to guide others to trust in the process of their own reinvention? You several times mentioned trust you have, but you on different level. Let's be open. What you would say to people who are on a crossroad?
Emily, that is one of those questions again that doesn't give a one pet answer because everyone else is doing it. It would be really being present for hearing their story. That would be the one thing that is really essential. And then slowly, gently, and that is where the mastery comes from, really, in a good counseling session. In when the right timing is to lead people into a new perspective. And how to do it is again very individual. It has to do with language choice, with where they're coming from, what kind of, in the assessment of my assessment as a therapist, where can I reach them the most so that we are connecting on the next step. There needs to be time for that, and there needs to be time to move forward. And everything has to do with an agreement. I would then ask, would you be ready now, or is that a good timing for now if we're bringing in another question or another thought? And then wait. Again, it's a different speed for everyone either. But good therapy, good counseling is also not rehearsing the same old trauma and pain and anger like for years in advance in a row or even months in a row. There needs to be a time for moving forward because that's why they're here or why we are connecting. It may not be the answer that your listeners want to hear because there is no pet answer, but there is a right timing after connecting and listening. And again, the way how to get people to move forward is very much relating to where they are at and what they're ready for or appear to be ready for or are willing to ready for in their next step. It may be something very practical to do, such as a communication that needs to be made, or a will that has to be written down, or a ritual to let go of an old trauma that they're still bothered by. It may be a major decision, practical decision relating to relocating, leaving the home, selling the home. It may be something just practical as that is part of the next step. And that's is where counseling always goes as well. There is a very great misconception on therapy, and that is that it's always going on what happened to your life when you were 3 years old. That is not how modern counseling is done. There is very, very rarely we would go back to a very early trauma and heal that trauma from a long time ago. Usually it's much more current what's happening in a person's life, and there's much more on coaching and therapy now together than artificially has been separated for many years.
And for those who feel a pull toward exploring metaphysical ideas, for those hesitant seekers, I would say, which might be skeptical or a little bit intimidated, what encouragement or first steps can you suggest to begin their journey?
That's an excellent question. First of all, they need to really have honest questions and be willing to use their mind on this for discernment, because we are sharing some things that are very challenging and it's not ready for everyone. People need to be really willing to be open. And one of the things I can guarantee all the people in the academy, and they would say that, all the students would say that, no one is forced or pushed into anything. This is not another religion or another cult or another anything. It is a place for exploration. And if things work out for you, adopt them. And if they don't, leave them alone. Just don't shock them. That's my request. Because you might revisit a concept or thought later that starts to make sense in a different way. And I feel what I picked up from your energy that just a minute ago, that it makes you feel good if even just one person would look at your shows and get inspired or get an idea or feel their life can move forward in a better way. That's what I feel when I have these gatherings.
That's why probably we speak today. And a little bit more serious note, but we can joke about it. And actually, humor, it's part of life joys and it's one of the techniques, I would say, you can reach. But achieving the fulfillment in a world increasingly driven by tangible successes, yes? How do you define true fulfillment? And what steps can someone take today toward achieving it? And I know it's very general, but you speak how you understand it.
Obviously, we are in a physical world, and part of fulfillment is that we need to survive and have food on the table, right? Pay our bills. That is at one level. But the other part of fulfillment, and that is just as crucial for me as for everyone else, right? But the other part is that I have fulfillment when people are happy again. I mean, it sounds so simple. When they smile again, when they enjoy their life again, when they have good relationships, when they have insights, they radiate that energy that I see that of. I know it sounds so superficial, but it's just happiness. And when someone has healed emotionally, when someone is happy again in their marriage and talks to their children again, and it's working well, or when someone has truly forgiven someone and harbored a lot of rage and anger and had freed themselves from from those burdens, that's it. That's my contentment. It really is.
That's your one. I really enjoy our conversation. I believe it will be so for people who listening, even part of it. Finally, Dr. Anneli Driesen, for our listeners eager to delve deeper and possibly step onto the path you have eliminated, how can they reach out to you and where can they begin their transformative exploration with your support?
Oh, thank you. I have this website, which you probably will have, metaphysicalacademy.com, but I also have another website, annelidriesen.com, which is about my private client work. So they can check that out. But really, the best way for me is to meet with me and just have a one-to-one meeting and see if that's right for them at that time to join the academy or work with me individually. It's a complimentary meeting, and then we can find out if we really are a fit, because sometimes it's not the right timing for a person, or they want to find out if they can pay the tuition differently when there's a payment structure that we can decide on. That would be really the easiest way to do. And then just have that one-to-one meeting and see if we both connect and if we fit. and if I can really be of help. If I can't, I really feel fine about referring them somewhere else. I know that I've done that several times in my life, that I referred people maybe to do their work at the University of Sedona or Metaphysics to get their doctorate in metaphysical science, or to go to an in-depth program, an experiential program that may take a couple of months on an island here close by, that may be more appropriate for them to deal with certain things. So I do refer to other people as well when I think it's appropriate. Yeah, one-to-one meeting. Maybe what I can do is, first of all, they should probably email me and I would send them the link or coordinate a meeting. Email is very simple. It's Anneli@metaphysicalacademy.com or Dr. Anneli@annelidriesen.com. So it's very simple. And then we would go from there.
So actually, with every interview, I'm trying to promote my guest. It's one of the reasons that's just for people to connect, because like I'm not specialist in all these areas, and I'm happy to know you and other people. Thank you, dear Anneli, for sharing such illuminating insights today and guiding us through the complex yet rewarding intersections of metaphysics, personal transformation, business, and practical life applications.
Well, you're so welcome. And I hope with this very complex subject, I have given a few ideas that shed some light on who I am and what I do and how I can serve. So thank you for having me on your show.
And to our listeners, today's discussion has inspired you to reflect on your life path and encourage you to explore the profound impact of metaphysical principles in your personal and professional journey. For those who are eager to learn more about Dr. Anneli Driesen's work, or to embark on your own metaphysical exploration, we encourage you to visit her website and reach out, and we will include links below. Thank you for joining us on this enlightening journey. Until next time, keep seeking to redefine the boundaries of the world. I'm Emily Braun, and I've had today's conversation with Anneli Driesen.